Cybersecurity Minister Claire O'Neil says the damage from the Medibank cyber attack is potentially irreparable after the company revealed the hack was even worse than first thought. This morning there's been news of another cyber attack, this time involving the pathology services giant Australian Clinical Labs. For more, joining us is Rachael Falk, the CEO of the Cybersecurity Cooperative Research Centre. Appreciate your time, thank you. Let's start on Medibank. What should anyone who's been impacted by this hack actually do? What is the best advice for them at this point as to how to recover from having their data compromised?
Absolutely. Look, I think all victims of the Medibank hack, past and present customers, need to be alive to what we call sort of re-victimisation. So emails, texts, phone calls purporting to be from Medibank saying that they need to change payment details or give information. Medibank have said they will not outbound like this. Also, purported follow-ups of surgeries or wanting to check things, again, could simply be another form of phishing to find out more details from victims. They just need to be very vigilant at the moment from unsolicited, other than the formal communications Medibank have said they've issued to customers. Be very vigilant for strange and unusual, but may look quite authentic communications from Medibank with links or actions for people to do, because Medibank have been very clear they will not ask customers to do that.
Rachael, it seemed to take quite a few days for Medicare to understand the extent of the hack. Why was that? Why was it so hard to actually see which data had been accessed?
Look, in a cyber breach, every cyber breach is different, but in many organisations, it's not as simple as saying, like, your house has got burgled or ransacked and you can see drawers open and it's really evident where robbers might have been. Just imagine this isn't just one house you're looking at. This is an entire suburb, and you have to work out, organisations can be incredibly complex, so you have to work out where the hackers have they been there. Sometimes they cover their tracks really well. So it's not always as simple as we're pretty sure nothing's happened. It can be a painstaking task, especially organisations that have multiple systems spread across not just the country but with third-party service providers. So this is not as simple as a quick sort of, a couple of days forensic check. It can take some time to really find out where the cyber criminals have been, and if they're really good, they hide their tracks, which makes it harder.
I mentioned the hack involving Australian Clinical Labs. What do we actually know about that so far?
Well, so far the reporting today in The Australian is all I've got either. It looks like they had an incident, if the reporting is correct, they had an incident in February and they've only reported it quite recently, which again, my advice to any organisation, if they fall within the remit of the Privacy Act, is disclose the breach. I don't think any customer will ever get upset if, in fact, their data hasn't been stolen, but you're doing the best thing to be transparent. But it looks like they've declared that breach to the Privacy Commissioner very recently.
So when hackers target that sort of data, what's the point of it? How are they actually planning to monetise the sort of data that they would be stealing from, for example, a pathology company or a medical insurer?
So cyber criminals are just criminals, so they go where they can get the greater reward. It's always payment details, credit card details. In some cases, it's to buy and sell more data on the dark web, like tax details. But more often than not is where the quick money is made. If you can possibly take live credit cards and exploit them further, there's more opportunity there. It is potentially to re-victimise victims, but more often than not, cyber criminals are just modern-day armed robbers. They will go where there's the greatest reward and the less risk. So usually it's with credit card numbers and things that can easily be taken and repurposed. Also, identity theft is another risk where they seek to get enough information to purport to be you and apply for loans in your name. That's why victims of all the recent hacks need to be very vigilant, and they can always get credit reports from credit agencies to make sure that no loans or credit card applications have been taken out of their name.
So, Rachael, for all of us, clients of these big companies, it can feel a bit like as individuals we're powerless to stop our data being hacked once we have passed over that data willingly to these organisations. Is there anything the average person can do to protect themselves, or does it really all fall on the companies to make sure that their systems are secure?
Look, it is a really good question. It can feel like we're really powerless because more often than not, we have no choice but to hand over really intimate or personal information we have no choice on. I would say to people, where you can stop handing over data, like if you go to a local shop and they're asking you to join their loyalty program, just say no. you really don't need it. Often it's an enticement for building their database, but more often than not, you're giving, again, a valuable data over. Protect your data where you can. In these instances, it is all but impossible. But just the only thing you can do is be vigilant at the moment. And also where you think, I'll give a good example. I was at a hotel recently, twice, where they wanted to take a copy of my driver's licence. I don't know why they'd need to do that. And in fact, the staff at the front desk couldn't really tell us either. So again, I sort of think some people were taking the power back a bit, pushing back on giving data, pushing back on, you can look at my licence, but you can't take a copy of it. I think more and more companies in Australia will have to realise they can't simply take copies of data because it was some policy that they decided a couple of years ago. And I think more and more of us, if we've not been hacked once or twice through these recent hacks, are becoming far more vigilant about what we have to share. And I think the Australian government too is alive to the fact that really holding and retaining certain data that is unnecessary is something that they're going to examine.
Some very good advice there, Rachael Falk. Really appreciate you sharing your analysis. Thank you.
Thanks, Ash.